let's transition a little bit here and let's talk a little bit about risks. I think that when I hear from our CEOs, some that do or do not have in-house HR expertise, if you will, they're always worried about lawsuits. They're really concerned about risk. From your perspective, how would you advise, getting over that fear that a business owner might have, or some common mistakes that a business owner might make in leading them to a lawsuit? How can they avoid this?
Well, so look, people can file lawsuits for a variety of reasons, or as we often joke, for no reason at all. But I think the important thing is lawsuits don't happen in a vacuum.
Mm,
And yes, there's a variety of reasons, but one of them is because employees are surprised, right? If they have their own story in their head that they've been a good performer and then they haven't been challenged by their employer, and then one day they get fired. Well, what do you think that employee is going to think, right? They're going to think that there's some other reason other than it was them, right?
right.
That it was because they've gotten older or because they spoke out on behalf of someone else. So a lot of times it is the preparation for a termination or a discipline or a performance discussion that is really the key to avoiding lawsuits, right? If you have some documentation, if you've had those discussions, if you've put in the time, then by the time someone is fired, that employee probably will know what's coming or at least know that it's on the table. And that's, in many instances, how you can avoid some of the risk that's involved.
And it sounds like too, Dan, what you're suggesting is to really put in place a culture, a system, a team of people to march this forward, to make sure that expectations are clear and communicated regularly. I'll also just point to clients that we work with that have an individual like you, a labor attorney that they have a relationship with. Ooh, they just feel so much better, and they don't have that fear of lawsuit. They might encounter it, to your point,
Yeah.
but their level of confidence that they'll be able to make their way through it is so much greater.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people who think of their attorney like their dentist, which is I'm only going to go with when my teeth hurt, are probably missing out because sometimes what we can provide and what an HR person can do as well is really bounce ideas and help develop planning. I mean, the best work we can do for a client is to avoid a lawsuit, right? Which
Right.
is we've helped them through a difficult situation, and they are through it on the other side for one reason or another, and can now see a path forward. That is critical. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, you also need to understand right now that the business environment, particularly for small businesses, has gotten infinitely more complex. I mean, you
Mm,
now have, for example, in Connecticut, a paid sick leave law that's coming in January 1st that impacts employers as small as 25 employees. Next year, it's 11 employees. And in 2027, it's just one employee. And that means you're having to manage like absences and all these types of things. So I think the days where a COO could handle everything are becoming rarer and rarer just because of the complexity of these things. Good for employment lawyers, bad for businesses.